There was an earthquake in the television business at the last part of it, late last night, as one of the most powerful executives in this business resigned in disgrace. Here to discuss it, NBC's own Stephanie Gosk and Jenna Hager, and co-host of PBS's In Principle, Amy Holmes. So we are going to start today, welcome to you all, with the fall of Les Moonves. Now, I don't even know if most people know who Les Moonves is, but he runs CBS. All of CBS. I mean, this is about a senior... The king of CBS for 20 years, as high as you can get at CBS. And about 6 weeks ago, there was a Ronan Farrow piece in The New Yorker with 6 women accusing him of harassment of different forms on the scale, and he denied it all. They said, we're going to hire outside investigators who answer to the company, outside counsel, and investigate it. And now last night, or did it drop yesterday or Saturday?
Sunday morning.
Ronan drops another piece with 6 more women. And the allegations they're disgusting. They're disgusting. They range from forced oral sex to groping to him being put on a list at the massage therapist at the Four Seasons. Listen, NBC's Thompson has got the latest. We're going to watch it and then talk about it.
This morning, one of the most successful runs in television is canceled, effective immediately. Les Moonves out at CBS. His exit coming just hours after new claims of sexual harassment or assault were published by The New Yorker. In a statement, CBS said the network will donate $20 million to organizations that support the Me Too movement and equality for women in the workplace. That money will be deducted from any severance package for the longtime chief executive. Those benefits withheld until investigations into Moonves' behavior are completed. His exit, triggered after 6 new women on the record with The New Yorker, shared a range of allegations against Moonves, from forcing oral sex to exposing himself, even violence and retaliation. TV executive Phyllis Golden Gottlieb said when they worked at Lorimar Telepictures in 1986, Moonves forced her to perform oral sex on him. She didn't report it because I realized he was the new golden boy. I just kept quiet. After rejecting another advance, Golden Gottlieb says Moonves got angry over her work and threw her against a wall. Last year, spurred by the Me Too movement, Golden Gottlieb told The New Yorker she filed a criminal complaint against Moonves in Los Angeles, but the statute of limitations had expired. Deborah Katay was a massage therapist in the late 90s. Moonves was one of her clients, but she says he was looking for something more.
Every time I went there, I would say no, or I would pretend like I didn't know what he was talking about.
In a statement after his ouster, Moonves said, untrue allegations from decades ago are now being made against me that are not consistent with who I am. In an earlier statement to The New Yorker, Moonves said 3 of the encounters were consensual, but not which ones.
So now he's out. He's out. They had been debating whether he was going to get a $100 million, golden parachute, basically.
Well, those reports were out, and it seemed as if Ronan Farrow was saying that actually precipitated some of these women to come forward and go public because they were hearing that he was going to get all this money.
And not only that, he was out there saying, I've always respected no means no. And these women were saying, wrong, sir.
Right.
Wrong. Now, he denies their claims. There's still a dispute among them. But now we have over 12 accusers of Les Moonves.
And you can bet there are probably more, let's face it. And in reading all of this, we're not just talking about sexual coercion when it comes to sexual harassment in the workplace. What is described is monstrous, predatory, and criminal behavior. And here he was at the head of CBS. One of his accusers said she even contacted the legal department to talk about, should I come forward? And they said, who's going to believe you?
Yeah, that Deborah Morris was this accuser, and that was the part of Ronan's article, which was great, that really caught my eye, because she came forward to 2 women in the HR legal department and said, this has happened to me, and they said, who would believe you? And this is happening to women across our country, and now that these women are stating their stories, even though they happened a long time ago, who will believe you are not going to be words that are going to be uttered anymore.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And can I tell you, think about Golden Gottlieb, the woman who claims he forced her to perform oral sex and then was violent with her, threw her against a wall. She's in her 80s.
Is that amazing?
She goes down
Good
within
for
the
her.
past year to LAPD in her early 80s to file a criminal complaint. Now, you know that generation, they lived in a way where they just took everything. They took it all. To get an 80-year-old woman down to the LAPD to file a criminal complaint, which was out of time given the statute of limitations. Imagine how angry she must have been. She said she felt inspired by the Me Too movement and what she saw. And he, you know, it's a lie, according to him. It's all lies, and the massage therapists are lies. There was a female doctor, Stephanie, who, what's she saying? She spoke out to Vanity Fair about an encounter they had.
Yeah, that he...
Which he admits.
Yeah, which he
Part of
admits
it.
is being sexist, right? I mean, that was what he copped up to.
She said, she says, she wrote an anonymous piece saying a very important man, a VIP, came into my office this morning. I was told a VIP. And started pressing himself up against me. That she's doing him a favor as a doctor. He's a bigwig. Giving him an early morning appointment. He starts pressing up against her. She pushes him off, and she says he pleasured himself right then and there in front of her. He comes out and says, I tried to kiss that doctor. That's it. It was in a medical journal that she then wrote it up saying what it's like to be a physician in the Me Too era. She said she put a note in his file saying, beware of this guy under his actual name, so other doctors and nurses would not be in the room alone with him. Same thing the massage therapists over at the Four Seasons said they had to do. This guy's running a news organization.
Right. And Megyn, when I was reading this, I just kept thinking, how can it be in this day and age that there are people with this medieval attitude that is Lord of the Manor, that they get to exploit and assault and harass women of the realm? And, you know, I'm sorry, I think people did know. They didn't care because he's making them too much money.
Well, that's the question, right? Because he's not just running CBS News, he's running all of CBS Television Group, everything. And Katie Couric came out after the first Ronan piece. You know, she went to CBS as the evening anchor, and she said that place felt like an old boys club where talented women were undervalued and marginalized, and people asked for so long after Charlie Rose fell, how could that go on? How could it go on for so long?
You know, it makes you sit here
yeah.
and you think about it, and you think about all the stories that have come out of our industry. Fox News, Roger Ailes, you know, Bill O'Reilly. You have here at NBC with Matt Lauer. You have what's gone on at CBS, and you sit
Mark
back.
Halperin went down. He was with us when he fell, but he had done his misdeeds at ABC.
So you sit back, and this is, it's a serious question. I wonder if there is something about this particular industry
I think there is.
that has fostered this or protected it or created that culture. But the other question we have to ask ourselves is it happening? Did it happen in other places, other industries that don't get as much attention as ours?
That's it. I mean, yes, I think that where there's power, this happens.
Yep.
But I also know, and we all know, that this is happening in restaurants, in factories, on farms. And those women don't get to be on the cover of the New Yorker. And so it is happening.
They're all part of the movement, too. I mean, you hear stories of, you know, poor Denny's, because I always say it's the women of Denny's, but nothing against Denny's. I'm just making that up. But, you know, when the Me Too movement reaches places like that, that's how we know we've made progress. And you are hearing more and more. But can I just say, so it was a year ago, I went on Andrea Mitchell's show on MSNBC to talk about, it was just the Harvey Weinstein thing had just broken. And we hadn't had any news people go down other than Roger Ailes. And she and I talked about this. And can I just show you? This is back in October, okay, of last year. Watch.
But it isn't just Fox either, you know, and I hope our own industry looks at itself and does a cleaning of house and gets honest about anybody in their companies who they've had to pay out repeated settlements for, because at this point, if that gets unearthed, if there is such an executive at these other companies, it's on you.
Yeah. It's on you. It's on CBS. They owe the women of that company protection and a safe working environment. And I realize a lot of these happened before Les Moonves got to CBS, but when a credible claim is raised like that, a woman had gone to the cops within the last year, and they're talking about giving him $100 million payoff, which he still might get, by the way. That $100 million has been placed on hold just while they can complete the investigation. These companies owe their male and female employees better. They owe them better than to have somebody like that running.
And they owe the next generation. They owe your daughter, your daughters, my daughters. They owe the next generation of girls this place where they can go and work and feel safe and feel like they can rise up.
That's right.
And that they don't ever need to hear the words, nobody will believe you.
And also that they don't have to, the other thing too is they don't have to wait like Golden Gottlieb did until she was 80 years old when she actually felt that she lived in a society that would listen to her and pay attention to her allegations and charges.
Right. And I think it's also important to point out that in these allegations with Mr. Moonves, these are women from across the spectrum in the entertainment industry, from in front of the camera to behind the camera. No one was safe.
Yeah, he was allegedly an equal opportunity offender. Ladies, thank you. We'll be right back.